In this tutorial, we expand upon the first tutorial, creating a page using Designer, by creating a report and adding that to the DLEX file to create a new document. What we'll end up with is the cover page from the first tutorial and the report from this tutorial. The DynamicPDF Cloud API is a set of REST endpoints for creating and modifying PDF documents. You can also use it to get metadata about those documents. It's easy to use, it's efficient and scalable, globally available, and secure. Key features include an online document report designer, merging, stamping, and adding barcodes to PDFs, form-filling PDFs and retrieving form-filled information, converting images to PDF, encrypting and securing PDFs, retrieving text, XMP, and other information. We also have an online tool called Designer that makes creating PDF documents from a report template easy and straightforward. And you can call our REST APIs directly using your own client API or a tool like curl, or you can select one of our client APIs that make calling the REST endpoint easier. We have one in C#, Java, Node.js, and PHP. Get up and running quickly using the DynamicPDF Cloud API. Our online designer, the REST APIs, and client libraries make it easy to add PDF capabilities to your application. The DynamicPDF Cloud API consists of the following endpoints: DLEX layout, image info, PDF info, PDF text, PDF XMP, and PDF. Let's go ahead and go to our tutorial. Select Docs, Tutorials, Designer, create a report. In this tutorial, you use the DynamicPDF Cloud API's Designer Online to create a report. If you have not completed the first tutorial, Create a Page, then you should complete that tutorial first. Here we expand on the first tutorial to include creating a simple dynamic report. You use a report to generate a PDF that contains dynamic data that describes a dataset's data. That report consists of a header, details, and footer section. The header and footer, like a page, contain top-level non-repeating JSON fields, while the details section contains repeating data fields that comprise the report's content. So let's scroll down to the required resources. Before beginning this tutorial, you must add the Creating a Report Designer samples folder to your cloud storage space in the Resource Manager. If you don't already have the Creating a Page Designer sample project already added, then you need to add this project also. So log in. And if you don't have an account, you can sign up for a free account. But of course, we assume that you have an account. That takes us to the Environment Manager. Select Manage Resources, then select Samples, add Samples, and add Create a Report, and then add Creating a Report Designer. And you can see we have our three files that we need: our DLEX file, our JSON file, and our JPEG. Go ahead and delete the DLEX file and the JSON file. Now in the Creating a Page Designer samples folder, move the Creating Page DLEX and the Creating Page JSON files to the Creating a Report samples folder. So now rename both files to Creating Report.dlex and Creating Report.json. Now, because these have the same name, if you double-click the DLEX file, Designer is going to automatically load the JSON data. So open the Creating Report DLEX file, and this takes you to Designer. And all we have at this point is our page. So if you click Run, it goes ahead and it creates the page. So now we need to add our report. Open the layout data editor and let's make sure we have the report data already added. And we do. Now we want to add a report. So click the Add Report button and it adds a report. With it selected, go over and change the data name to coffees. So it has the same name as the array of data. Now scroll down and you can see the actual report. We have 3 sections. We have the header, the details, and the footer. In the header, let's add the labels. So go ahead and add label, assign it the text product ID, add another label, assign it the text variety. And don't worry about where you stick these for now. We're going to format this a little better in just a second. Now add the third label and add the label coffee type. And add yet another label and name it price per pound. Now let's lay out the labels a little better. So let's set the X and the Y value of all 4 elements. As with the last tutorial, we're not going to worry about exact layout. We're not going to waste time by getting the exact layout, but our layout here gives you a pretty good example of how you can do this a little more exacting if you had a real world example. Now we've added our 4 labels. Let's add a line and let's size it and let's go ahead and make sure that it's straight and the proper width. Click anywhere in the header to select the header and notice the height. We can change the height here. So let's change it from 50 to 25. And it changes the header height. Now let's go ahead and run this just to see how it's going to look. And there you go. There's the PDF report, but we only see the report's headers. Now let's add the actual record fields. Let's do it the easy way. So go over to the Data Explorer and drag and drop product ID. Let's go ahead and now let's set the X and the Y so it's aligned. Let's do the same for variety. Make sure that it's aligned. Now let's add the type and of course align it. Now for the final element, we don't want a record box. We want a record area. So click anywhere in the details section, right click, add record area. And for the text, put in $ pound price pound. Recall that a DLEX template uses Cold Fusion style syntax to embed fields. Let's go ahead and set it. Let's align it. Now let's select anywhere in the details section and let's change the height to 20. And to the price per pound, let's go ahead and right align it. And now let's run it. There you go. So it's looking a little better. Now we have our, now we have the data columns headers, and we have the data. Let's add a footer to this. So create a new record area. And let's go ahead and align it. And let's put in the text, report created by pound author pound. Resize the record area to make sure it fits. And let's go ahead and change it to be italicized and make it a little smaller for the font. Let's go ahead and make sure it's aligned by setting the X and the Y. And now select the footer and resize it to 20. Let's run it. And now we have the footer at the bottom of the page. But we could do some things to make it look, you can do things to make it look better. Now I said we weren't going to spend too much time on formatting, but let's add a line to the header. Excuse me, let's add a line to the footer. Just to make it look a little better. So let's move down the record area. Let's add a line. And let's make sure it's the right width. Make sure it's right up at the top there, and it's 10, so it's going to line up for the X and the Y value. And now let's go ahead and run it again. And you can see now we have the data, and at the bottom we have the line, and just below the bottom, or just below that line, we have the report created by John Doe, the footer. Of course, usually you'd have a lot more data. So let's add more data to our report to make it look a little more realistic. Also, so that you can see what happens when the number of data lines is greater than the report. Open the layout data editor and add the following records, which you can get from the tutorial. Just copy and paste them. Go ahead and save it as creating a report or creating report JSON. Now let's run the report with the newly added data. And if we scroll down, you'll see we have the footer. And then because there was more data than could fit on a single page, it went ahead and continued the report to the next page. So as you can see, creating a report using Designer is simple and straightforward. I'm James, Developer Evangelist at DynamicPDF, reminding you, when you think PDF, think DynamicPDF Cloud API. See you next time.